Okay, guys, welcome back to another comment review video. This will be 10 minutes, and this is where we respond to a comment that we read that somebody left on one of our videos. Specifically, this was left on Fourth Wing, and it has to do with disability in Fourth Wing. For those who don't know, the author has a disability called EDS, and the character in the book also has EDS, and we talked about in the review how there is a toxic perseverance trope in the book where the character kind of is able to fight past their disabilities by just working harder, and how that's actually a really damaging view of disability in the real world, and it educates people to be like, you in the wheelchair, just try to walk, and like they think they can. And one of the people in our comments, we've had a lot of comments about this, actually talked about how they had been denied pain medication before because their doctors were like, yeah, you're used to it, you have a high pain tolerance. And EDS specifically is a disability where you can like be able to run one day and then you're spending 3 weeks dealing with it. And so the book is actually really bad about portraying this. And this is the only place a lot of people are going to be experience or getting their view of EDS from. And so specifically though, this comment brought up something that I hadn't thought of, and hopefully this is the right comment. This was from Mellow Marshy XIV5964. I strongly agree on the point that there is no commentary on the world that would support the idea of this book being disability representation. The fact that so many people die in this world for so-called being weak, and everyone just accepts it as a factor of ableism. And that has to do with the fact that in the book, Violet, the main character, is going to this war college where they're like all about weeding out the weak and they're allowed to kill each other and like dumb stuff like that. But I thought it was a really good point to talk about this more as a structural issue in the book than just like, you can't just have a disabled character enter into society and prove themselves. It's really more about what does the book think about it.
It really could have said something, you know, like that if society supports you, you can do maybe not the exact same things, but different things and have places, but that by having a society that is inherently ableist, what are you saying about your character, or what is your character saying about this world by being a character with a disability? And also the kind of disability that is not obvious on first glance. So you have the obvious disabilities, like being in a wheelchair, or like if someone's missing a limb, those you immediately see it and clock it. And so like then you have people who it's not completely apparent with. There's a lot of like old white women who get mad when people that they think don't have a disability park in disabled parking spots, even if they have a disabled license plate.
That has literally happened to Juan.
Yeah, it's like invisible disability, I think is what they call it.
Having a character who has what would be considered a invisible disability, that could have told much more about society. Does she choose to try hide it and deal with it on her own until she has to start letting other people help support her? How is she choosing to have this thing? And it's so shallow. It's like she threw it in there and then just went flavor like at the last minute.
Not even that. Oh my gosh, it's not even a seasoning. It's just
okay. We can't start with you guys going into food metaphors because that can last like a good 3 to 4 minutes on its own.
Well, also like it's just boring then. Why even like just from a storytelling perspective, why use that mechanic at all if it's not going to be part of her like whole personality where it's going to help build her up into, you know, like you're saying, Maria, is she going to be the kind of person who can invent things, or does she have to rely on people to invent things to help her assist with like all the different mechanics she has to deal with the dragon stuff and everything, right?
It would be really interesting, especially for like if there had been like a technologic or just like an inventive branch of the military that was tasked with designing.
And she knew it's because she's a scribe, and maybe it has something to do with like, we could have had the whole, again, back to the reference of How to Train Your Dragon, like accommodating yourself for the things that you can't make up for physically, and like the fun that it would have in the plot and as well as in the characterization.
Also, like, God, I'd love a society where like there were just people kind of like in Godkiller, the way the disability was dealt with in that book. There was multiple characters with disabilities, but
also, wouldn't it make more sense with the way their society is that a whole bunch of people would have like massive battle wounds that they'd have to like deal with in the military?
They should have excellent prosthetics.
The other thing is that That would be good, but it's okay to write a society that is very ableist as long as the book is critiquing it or saying something
Exactly.
through it. And that's the thing, is that the book never ever condemns the high, basically eugenicsy way that the war college functions. It's never like the book like there's this part in the second book where she, the main character, defends how brutal it is. And
Yeah,
maybe
that was weird.
like for me, I'm like, well, the author's going to condemn it at some point, but it's been like 48 hours in audiobook time and she hasn't actually condemned it. She isn't saying like, you know what, they're losing a lot of good writers because they're losing people who could have value to us, but because they don't fit this very
Or
specific.
because they don't fucking have saddles.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's so wasteful, and that's an okay commentary to have, but the book doesn't do that. And I think that's what makes the book more than just how Violet's specific disability is handled, which again, she should be breaking a bunch of hinges in her bones when they're having sex. Apparently having sex with EDS is actually a little difficult, and apparently not just raps will help.
Well, yeah, that's what I don't understand how immediately after she's wounded, she's just like, yeah, no, you can go, like, please,
Go rough.
Rough it is.
I'd
Rough
love
it is,
it.
even though.
It's bizarre because her disability is presented as a her problem that she must overcome individually, and the only time she is accommodated by someone else, it is as a brownie points for Zayden when he has the saddle made for her, and it's not something like
Yeah.
as a teacher. I mean, I think of how interesting that would have been as if one of her teachers was like, you can't do this.
You need
You're
to
going
accommodate.
You're going to be
Yeah.
a great writer, so I'm going to supply this for you because this would solve. And also, once she gets it, other people because like a lot of things that happen with innovations made for people with disabilities is it then makes other people's lives better.
Put space on planes. We should be embracing the fat positivity movement because we all deserve foot space.
But even just like sidewalk curbs and bigger sidewalks and stuff like that, that was all things that came out of. And it would be amazing if she had gotten the saddle and then other people looked at that and went, oh, actually,
Wait a second.
this other person fell off their saddle. Like that happens all the time. This would benefit everyone. And then people like that's just a thing that happens in society and to see. But no, it is literally only used to show how much Zedden does her the lovings. Like that's it. And besides that, her disability is her problem. And if you just work out enough and not of and or what's the pink haired girl who makes her work out all the time?
Imogene.
There's never a reflection on that these characters' expectations is ever proven wrong. There's never a point where Violet just can't do the thing and they have to look at it and go, oh, I kind of thought you were just faking it. I'm the problem here. You know, that never...
It's me, I'm the problem, Taylor
It's
Swift.
me, I'm the problem. That never happens. There's not a single point where somebody goes, oh my god, we actually just pushed her too hard and because she's trying to people please,
I love those
she
scenes.
put herself...
I love those scenes.
And then
and
it
things.
requires them to reassess every interaction.
Okay, we got
they've
30
had.
seconds. No, so the representation isn't good. I think it's okay for disabled people to write themselves as a power fantasy sometimes, but in this case, this is where most people are going to run into the idea of EDS, and that's damaging. One of the two of you can say something.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
That was
Okay,
good.
all right. That's all of the comment and response. Sub to the channel, join our Patreon. Okay, thanks, bye.